Hey everyone, I was actually supposed to release this video yesterday, but I wasn't able to play the game for like several hours, so you probably saw me playing League on stream, and then my PC started crashing a bunch. Hopefully my PC crashing has been fixed. I've ordered a new riser cable, but I have to like reinstall my GPU a couple times. Hopefully it's like in the right spot now and won't fall out of the riser mid-recording. For now, we're just going to talk about the new weapons. Okay, so my plan for videos for the next couple days before the day 1 dungeon race, today you're going to see a video, this one, talking about all the new weapons, okay? Tomorrow, I'm going to make a damage meta update video that's also going to cover what I think is good for day 1, artifact testing, Lord of Wolves, you know, all that stuff, including some, you know, contingency plans in case some stuff gets disabled, okay? I've wanted to do a lot of testing yesterday. I was basically not able to play the game for like a third of the entire day, or sorry, 2/3 of the entire day. So, yeah, it's pretty rough. But today, I'm recording this at 11 a.m. I'm just going to edit it, polish it real quick, and get it out there. And I just want to talk about the new weapons so that those of you who farmed up for stuff last season, if you're curious if anything is important this season, we're going to talk about it right now. Okay, so I decided the best way to do this is probably just, we're going to go to D2 Foundry, we're going to type Season Heresy, right? And then we're going to type Adept False to avoid too many dupes. There are still going to be some dupes here, but we're going to avoid too many dupes. Okay, I'm going to blaze through these super quick, or, you know, as fast as I can reasonably manage to. Okay, so first, Boondoggle. I've already put all these in the tier list, by the way. And if you guys haven't seen, I'll probably maybe make videos on this separately later on. But I have made primary tier lists. A lot of you guys have been asking in the past. And I was like, you know what? At this point, there's just so many primaries in the game. I can't afford to just write best in slot stuff because, for example, energy hand cannons, there's just so many that are good that like it would be kind of irresponsible of me to not make primary tier lists at this point. So anyways, regardless, Boondoggle Mark 55. This seems to be just like a PvP SMG. It's pretty bad for PvE. As you can see here, there's just like no really good perks for PvE. So I've placed it probably quite low, I would imagine. Where's Boondoggle? Boondoggle. There you go. Bottom of V tier. Yeah, it's like Pugilist Swash, Subsistence Swash. Decent archetype. It's enhanceable, but pretty bad for PvE in a sandbox where we have destabilizing rounds, SMGs, you know, splash perks, stuff like that. Joxer's Longsword. For those of you that don't know, even after the Heavy Burst Pulse Rifle nerf, it is still one of the best archetypes in the game. It's a little uncomfortable to use, so, you know, because of that, I've kind of placed it as equal value compared to Rapid Fire Pulse Rifles. They're very similar in primary DPS as well when it comes to minor DPS. So yeah, S tier, pretty good stuff. Repulsor, Destabilizing, has the new perk Demoralize, which I think is pretty decent as well. So yeah, but Repulsor Destabilizing, that's going to be the main thing. Obviously, Grid Skipper has a better origin trait. So yeah, kind of, you know, choose between the two, doesn't really matter. This one might be easier or harder for you to get depending on what kind of content you play. So yeah, that's going to be it. Joxer's Longsword, pretty good primary there if you want a pulse rifle. Backfang, I think this is a new Gambit glaive. Yeah, glaive, you know, I mean, glaives are glaives. They kind of all serve the same defensive purposes outside of the ones that have some unique perks like Chill Clip. But this one, yeah, Backfang, I believe it's somewhere in the middle here. Yeah, Backfang, it's a rapid fire arc glaive. It has some decent perks like Impulse, Grave Robber, Lead from Gold, classic glaive perks. Surrounded close to melee, those are 2 perks that we're often, you know, looking out for on glaives. And then it's the first glaive, I believe, with jolting feedback. So I don't know how many hits. I don't think anyone knows because even the compendium currently doesn't have glaive hits listed for jolting feedback, but it's usually like based on the mag. So jolting feedback probably won't take too many hits, maybe 2 or 3 to jolt on a glaive. So that could be potentially interesting. I wrote it down here. Certainly better than Volt Shot, which requires a manual reload, which is obviously quite annoying on a glaive. So yeah, I mean, if you want a glaive, it's decent. It's maybe the it's probably the easiest to get out of the ones in the S and the A tiers. So, you know, all you got to do is play some Gambit, right? I guess Enigma is pretty easy to get as well. Okay, so that's it for Backfang. Let's move on to Hollow Words. Hollow Words, I'm just going to tell you guys right now, all of these, I don't know what season these are from, but like I think Arrivals reprises, they're all terrible, right? They're all really terrible. Maybe they're PvP oriented, but I'm not really a PvP guy, so I can't really speak much on that. But yeah, Hollow Words is pretty terrible. Let's go ahead and see where I decided to place it. Yeah, it's in the E tier. The best you're going to get from this is Lead from Gold Vorpal, and it's a precision frame, so it's basically the Cartesian roll, except for it is a precision instead of a rapid, so it's pretty bad. Okay, so that is Hollow Words. Abyssal Edge is up next. This is the second heavy wave frame sword in the game. let's go ahead and go to our sword tier list here and talk about what it has. So I've decided to place Abyssal Edge in the A tier, and the reason for this is because it does have Relentless Strikes and Elemental Honing and Surrounded, but it is, I believe, missing Whirlwind Blade, which is quite unfortunate. It is also missing Chaos Reshaped, which, Summon Bonum has access to, so I would say it's a little bit worse. It has a better origin trait than Summon does, especially because using a sword, generally you're doing like boss damage, and you're going to be doing sustained damage, so you're going to get Willing Vessel's charge rate thing up. Collective Purpose is famously pretty bad for a kind of requiring 6 people in your fire team for maximum effectiveness perk, or origin trait, I should say, so not that great. But Abyssal Edge, I would say its second column perks are a little bit more niche than Summon Bonum, and of course Summon Bonum has access to Attrition Orbs as well, on top of having access to Adept Impact. I guess they both have access to Adept Impact, but regardless, I think Summon Bonum is a bit more, I don't know, if you're going to be the only Wave Sword user in your team, you may as well go all out type deal. So, I put it in the S tier. Abyssal Edge, I put it in the top of A tier. But if you need a Wave Sword, they're both fine, as long as you're willing to make use of Elemental Honing. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Abyssal Edge. It's just, run-of-the-mill Wave Sword, just with not very consistent damage perks. Cold Denial, I mean, I already talked about this. Arrival's Reprises are terrible, and this is no exception. If we go to Pulses, it's a kinetic pulse. You'd expect them to give it kinetic tremors in, season 26 or whatever we're in right now, and they didn't, so this is pretty bad, right? Cold Denial in the F tier. Best you're going to get from this is like Enlightened Action, Desperado, Swashbuckler, right? Single target perks that are just not even that good. So yeah, Cold Denial, we're going to leave it in the past here. Eyes Unveiled. This is a new Precision Frame Linear from this season. I think it's part of the Heretical Arsenal, maybe. But yeah, Precision Frame, Void. This is also not great. It has Subsistence and Discord. So if you ever were like, man, I really wish I had an Add Clear Linear, well, this is the first Discord heavy in the game, and if Discord was in the first column, maybe this would be a little bit more interesting. Maybe Discord Reservoir Burst would be kind of cool. You could go around just like one-shotting and exploding ads, and then you would constantly have Reservoir Burst uptime up, and I guess maybe Runneth Over would maybe synergize with that a little bit. I'm not sure if Discord overflows past your total mag cap if you have like Runneth Over or something, but yeah, this is it's just, or sorry, if it still refills ammo, I should say, to your reserves. But anyways, yeah, Eyes Unveiled, outside of the fact that it's like an Add Clear Linear with Discord and has good ammo econ in that sense, if you actually look at it in the grand scheme of things in the sandbox right now, I don't think anyone cares about an Add Clear Linear, and the other perks that it has are not particularly engaging or interesting, so I just left it in the C tier. Not something worth pursuing in my opinion. Okay, Whispering Slab, again, another reprisal of an Arrival's weapon. This is pretty terrible. I don't think we need to talk about this much. They barely changed the perk pool on this thing. They give it demo in the first column instead of the second, which is maybe, I guess, unique for a bow, but I still don't think anyone cares. So yeah, it's in the F tier, or in the E tier. We don't even have an F tier because there's not enough bows for not enough bow segmentation for an F tier, excuse me. A lot of primaries in this game. There's enough of them, or there's enough differences between them. Whenever I make tier lists, basically what I do is I take them in alphabetical order, the primaries that are in the tier list, and then I just swap them. I do basically like a bubble sort going down the list, right? And if the primaries are not different enough from each other, if there's not enough segmentation, then there's no F tier, right? Because there's just clear, obvious groupings of primaries, and there's no F tier. So yeah. Also, yeah, guys, check out the new primary tier list. You got non-denouement in the S tier. A lot of cool stuff you can see. Pretty cool stuff if you're interested in my opinions on legendary primaries. Okay, Cynosure. I think I'm saying that correctly. Cynosure. Yeah, S tier rocket. I've changed the S tier this season. Tomorrow's Answer is out because it's a high impact. These two are aggressive, so they're better. Apex Predator has also been taken out of the S tier, but we'll talk about tier list adjustments at a finer grain at a later time. So Cynosure is it's an adaptive. Sorry, my apologies. It's still in the S tier, but it doesn't change anything. But yeah, they patched bipod swapping. So for those of you who are hoping for a multi-perk Cynosure with bipod swapping with like elemental honing, you're out of luck. However, it's still pretty good. It has Envious Arsenal, Clown, Field Prep, Elemental Honing, Explosive Light bipod. For those of you that don't know, Elemental Honing is an up to 35% perk right now, so pretty good stuff, obviously. And Strand is maybe a good element to be having on an Elemental Honing weapon, so you don't need to do Strand damage with your other weapons instead. So yeah, pretty decent stuff here. I would say it's definitely like a step down below Hezen Vengeance, but I don't want to make like an S- or like an A+ tier because this rocket is definitely better than everything else below it. Okay, So that's Cynosure. It is, I believe, a Vanguard rocket. So it is easier to get than Hezen if you're not a raider. But if you're watching my channel, you're probably a raiding type anyway. But anyways, Found Verdict next up. It is our first Vogue reprised weapon that we're going to talk about. Unfortunately, it is an energy aggressive shotgun, which does weigh against it. You know, nothing against Found Verdict itself, but you know, it is kind of in bad company, I suppose. They did give it Discord in the first column. I've been asking for Discord on an aggressive shotgun for a little bit here, so that's kind of nice, I suppose. Unfortunately, the second column, not looking too optimal for a Discord shotgun, but you know, it's got Trench Barrel now in the second column, which is kind of nice. 1-2 punch on an aggressive shotgun was kind of awkward to begin with. Elemental Honing, I just put it here because it's, you know, it's a good damage perk, but you know, you're not going to pick this thing, honestly. And then I guess if you want to go for like some, you know, an interesting add, clear, manual, reload, cancel, swap, roll, Discord Volt Shot, I guess is a thing. I don't know. This thing obviously just does not have any space in it carved out in the meta for it, so I'm just going to put it in the B tier next to all the other, like, you know, trench barrel-esque shotguns, like a sudden death, right? Aggressive shotgun. So nothing too crazy here for PvE. We're going to move on to, that is a duplicate, sorry. Qua Furor V. Qua Furor V. I think this is a world drop, a new aggressive machine gun. Now this is a nice machine gun because it actually has Wildcard as its origin trait, which I believe, I don't even know if another machine gun has. Oh, Qua has that. Okay, never mind. It's actually worse than Qua Okay, whatever. So while Qua does have destabilizing rounds, oh, I just realized this, 1 second, apologies. Let me fix this so it's 160, so destabilizing rounds is in one row. Yeah, Qua Furor is an aggressive stasis machine gun. It is not particularly great. First column is kind of outdated. You know, most of these perks no one really cares about. Recycled energy, manual reload encouragement on a machine gun is pretty cringe. Rhyme Stealer in first column when you don't have any like reload assistance is pretty cringe as well. Feeding Frenzy being your best reload perk really hurts this thing. I think Dragonfly, Golden Tracker, and One for All, they're decent for second column perks on a machine gun, but really the selling point is here is going to be a Wildcard, right? Wildcard, I believe, is quite rare on machine guns, so you know that's pretty cool, but not enough to save it from being in the B tier. We're going to move on to Watchful Eye. Now, this one's actually a little bit interesting. Okay, so Watchful Eye has jolting feedback, right? And jolting feedback actually does not require you to do damage to like a single target in the way that Kinetic Tremors does. Kinetic Tremors is kind of similar to jolting feedback in that it's like an on-hit perk, but it doesn't require you to stack up on a single target, right? So that makes it really, really a lot more interesting for like a machine gun. So Watchful Eye, I'm tentatively going to place it at the bottom of S tier. I think, you know, Overflow, jolting feedback, I think that's a pretty good roll. I think Aggressive Frame is a pretty good machine gun archetype as well. So, you know, I'm tentatively going to put it in S tier. Maybe jolting feedback is really bad on machine guns. I don't know the hit count required on machine guns. So if it's like 15 or something, that's going to be, you know, not amazing. If it's like 20 or 15 or something, then not great, right? So, you know, I'll tentatively put it at the bottom of S tier. It might move down to A though in the future. It kind of reminds me of like an Avalanche, right? Where you don't have like demo in the first column. You just have like Overflow or like reload assistance in the first column. And then you have jolting feedback / incandescent in the second column. Sorry, my throat is like really dry. Okay, we're gonna move on past Watchful Eye. We're gonna go to Cruoris FR4. Okay, so I actually was gonna make this video last night, but every time I got on to test aggressive fusions, my game would just crash. Or not my game, my entire PC would just crash. But this morning, I've been able to test aggressive fusions. I will talk more about this in the damage meta update video, but all you need to know is aggressive fusions received a slight nerf, actually. So before, aggressive fusions were actually a positive outlier in damage. It's just we only had Coriolis Force, which has no relevant damage perks. So I wasn't able to really say anything because, like, you know, it's the only aggressive fusion in the game and it sucks, right? So I was like, okay, well, if Bungie decide to give aggressive fusions like a good damage perk in the future, these could actually be potentially pretty good because their damage is an outlier against the generally flat curve of fusion rifle archetypes. Well, unfortunately, what Bungie did with aggressive fusions is they nerfed the damage of aggressive fusion slightly, and they made the I don't know, they made it like a 3 burst of like these horizontal line of pellets going upward. They want to make it like an add clear archetype, which is a bit confusing to me, but whatever. But basically all you need to know is aggressive fusions essentially act like adaptive fusions now. They essentially act like adaptive fusions, have almost the same charge time and almost the same damage per shot. So, you know, not particularly great. And I guess, you know, on bosses where you're a bit like longer range, horizontal spread is not ideal, right? But anyways, Cruoris FR4 is not very good. This thing has elemental honing, but again, you know, on an energy weapon to have elemental honing, it's all right, right? And then first column is obviously not very good for damage, right? You have Discord, which is, you know, an add clear perk, and you have Clown Cartridge, which is a bit of a dated, you know, overflow perk at this point, right? So Cruoris, I mean, it's okay. I just put it at the bottom of B tier. I think it's similar viability to the high impact fusions that have actually like good overflow perks and good damage perks. So, you know, maybe an easier to use archetype, but you know, similar viability to these guys. And I don't think the you know, Discord and like no splash perk is particularly interesting either. So yeah, put in the B tier, Cruoris FR4. Okay, next up we have False Promises. Okay, False Promises is an auto rifle, a high impact stasis auto. Now they changed it from a kinetic auto. This is maybe the best, and I say best in quotation marks here, of the reprised Arrivals weapons. I really hope these were Arrivals weapons, because otherwise I'm saying the wrong season over and over. Not that it particularly matters, because this thing is pretty bad. Where did I put this thing? It is... Or is it a pulse rifle? No, it's an auto rifle. Sorry. It's right in front of me. I'm stupid. Sorry. It's a high impact with enlightened action and headstone, right? This is maybe, I think, the only primary from this era to actually get a splash perk. So that's kind of nice, I suppose. I mean, it's a stasis weapon, so they were kind of forced to give it headstone. But enlightened action headstone, put in the C tier next to all the other, you know, headstone auto rifles. I think I put in my notes, if you guys are interested, of like a summary of all the changes. It's in the changelog all the way in over here. But yeah, I think I put in my notes that this thing is basically a Herod C, except for it's enhanceable, and it has a worse origin trait, no Hawkeye breach armaments. So yeah, that's pretty much it for False Promises. Sorry, I'm talking really fast right now, but I'm trying to blaze through this because I needed to do some testing after this. Temptation's Hook. Okay, I don't know if this was a mistake or not, but when Temptation's Hook first came out, this thing had nerfed impact, right? It was 46 impact, and I don't know if anyone has this thing in-game or not, but at least on all the API sites like Light.gg and D2 Foundry, it still has 46 impact, which makes it an automatic F tier, right? This thing is absolutely terrible. It just by default does with less damage than every other caster frame in the game, or every other sword in the game for that matter. So Bungie, please fix. Okay, why is it 46 impact? There's no reason this gun would not be, this sword would not be OP if it had normal, you know, whatever it is, 60 impact. Okay, so give it 60 impact, stop playing around. Why is it 46 impact? That's all I have to say. Okay, perks are okay though. You know, you get like Relentless Whirlwind, you know, classics. And Attrition as well in the first column. Okay, next up we have that, we already saw that. Resounding. I think this is the, this is the Ritual Fusion for this season. This thing's not good either. Okay, this thing's not good either. You can't actually see the perks on D2 Foundry, but I'll tell you what they are. Because I placed them over here. Yeah, Subsistence, Reservoir Burst. It has two other perks too, like Hatchling and shit, but you know, Subsistence, Reservoir Burst is really what you're going to be going for if you really want to use this weapon. It's basically, you know, it's just an ad clear fusion. It's an ad clear fusion, although I would say there's another fusion this season that's not an aggressive frame. It's an adaptive frame, actually, that has a better perk combo than Sub Reservoir Burst. So, you know, I would, you know, look at that instead. It's Afterlight. We're going to talk about that when we reached it on the list. But yeah, Resounding is not particularly good. I mean, it's a ritual weapon. Ritual weapons have been pretty mediocre, pretty disappointing for the last couple seasons, or for the last 2 years or something like that. Okay, anyways, let's... Oh, there it is. Afterlight. Perfect. I was just talking about you. Okay. So Afterlight is a Void adaptive fusion, and it has Discord and Reservoir Burst, okay? So Bungie has gradually been rolling out Discord onto better and better special and now power weapons, and I think Afterlight is a great example of a good Discord weapon. I think perfectly, in a perfect world, a high impact fusion would receive Discord because they're the best to get like one shot, one kill type deals, but you know, I think in, you know, low to mid content, Discord Reservoir Burst will be an interesting role. You also have destabilizing rounds, which I think this might be the first destabilizing round fusion, so potential... Oh, never mind, Zealot's had it too. But you know what I mean. You know, it's decent. It's decent. So, you know, this might be something interesting as like an ammo economy, ammo efficient ad clear fusion. But, you know, again, we have area denials now, so what am I talking about? Anyways, yeah, A tier fusions in general, you're probably just not going to be looking at. So it's whatever. Fusions in general, not super great right now. But yeah, that's where I decided to put Afterlight. It also has like Lead from Gold Vorpal as like just a regular old run-of-the-mill damage per combo as well. Okay, moving on, we have Keen Thistle. I talked about this briefly last season, and I also included a new row in my boss damage spreadsheet for this one, but I think I decided to place it at the top of A tier. It's a trial sniper, it's an aggressive solar sniper, it has some PvP perks, but it also has some cool PvE perks as well. It has Envious and Bait, which makes this the best legendary sniper for swap DPS for specifically Envious triggering, right? Because your fire rate doesn't actually matter, your sustained DPS doesn't actually matter on a weapon that you're only going to be shooting one shot for. And so an aggressive sniper is technically the best sniper archetype if you're just shooting one shot to trigger Envious. So high swap DPS on this thing. I mean, obviously Bait and Switch doesn't activate on the first shot, so it's a bit of a shame for a hit scan weapon, but it's not too bad, right? You got Hawkeye breach armaments. It also has Incandescent and Discord, triple tap 4 times. If you ever needed like an energy special weapon that does 12 million total damage, I think it was, across 2 entire minutes, well, this is your guy, triple tap 4 times sniper. So yeah, pretty funny, I suppose. A little interesting perk combo. But besides that, this is not particularly remarkable or insanely versatile compared to some of the other stuff we're going to talk about, like the new Vogue Sniper. Okay, moving on. What do we have next? We have Warlord Spear. Okay. So this is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the only weapon in the game that has this new perk called Detonator Beam. Dealing sustained damage creates an explosion around the target. Maybe it's some sort of, I don't know, like Prometheus lens type effect. Depending on how good this perk is, it will be a decent ad clear. Trace, but I do think Repulsor Brace Destabilizing Rounds Chronophage with the new minor trace buff is probably still going to be better than it, and especially because the origin trade's much better, right? So this could be potentially interesting with like Loose Change Jolting Feedback or Loose Change Detonator Beam, but people need to have it in their hands before we really decide whether or not this is a good weapon. But I think even if, both of these perks end up being kind of mediocre, it's still deserving of being in the bottom of A tier. I'm not going to put it above the Shoot to Loot Fusion traces, and I did move Retrace Path below S tier because I do think that the Destabilizing Rounds buff puts Chronophage in like another tier, and of course the origin trait is better than Retraced as well, so Retrace does make sense to move it down one tier. Okay, so let's keep going here. Next up we have Hezen Vengeance, everybody's new favorite rocket. Listen, I was hyping this rocket up last season. I told you guys, listen, I saw the writing on the wall. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, I said tomorrow's answer, this thing is cooking and it's a high impact. If we get an aggressive fusion next season, or an aggressive rocket next season, and we probably will with Envious and Bait. And here it is, right here it is. It's an Envious Bait rocket with Time Lost magazine with an artifact booster. This thing is going to be absolutely crazy. I haven't made any rotations with it, but I will. And when I do, I think I will be not even impressed at this point, because I think this weapon's going to be very strong. Okay, so yeah, top of S tier. I mean, it has Envious Arsenal, it has Bait and Switch, it has Elemental Honing. If bipod swapping wasn't fixed, it has bipod. It has Cluster Bait for double damage perks. This thing is absolutely insane, busted. I don't need to talk much more about it. I mean, this is like self-explanatory, really. I think all of you guys know that this rocket is OP. Okay, Refusal of the Call, Glaives. Refusal of the Call is a new adaptive glaive. I mean, it has Discord. I think it's the first Discord glaive. Yeah, it's the first Discord glaive. I mean, it's kind of whatever. Glaives are not notoriously good at like one-shotting bulky red bars in endgame content, so not particularly great, but it has Slice, it has Impulse Amplifier. Melee momentum might be decent with Discord if melee kills trigger Discord. So yeah, I mean, it's all right. It's kind of whatever. It's just an A tier glaive, nothing particularly crazy. It doesn't have like chill clip or anything. So yeah, we're gonna leave it in the A tier. We're gonna move on. Next we have Pally. Ooh, poor Pally. Poor Pally. Yeah, this thing is not good. This thing is not good. At least, given that it's a new hand cannon and that like it's a, everyone loves this hand cannon type deal. I do think Rolling Storm is maybe one of the most overrated perks this season, if not the most overrated perk. Compared to other options like, Jolting Feedback, Incandescent, Destabilizing Rounds, which basically give you an instant response to getting a kill or getting hits. Rolling Storm is like, it helps your subclass build kind of deal. And the fact that, Bolt Charge is like a scaling thing that has to happen over time, it's just not lethal enough to be on a primary and make a big difference. So putting Explosive Payload in the first column, that's good, that's nice and everything. But I really can't give this thing higher than D tier. I mean, look at the things surrounding it, right? You have Igneous Hammer, Heal Clip, Incandescent, worse archetype, but arguably better perk combo. You have Exuviae above it, which is like an aggressive frame hand cannon that bypasses the slow reload of an aggressive frame by using Dark Ether Reaper, which is a really great origin trait. And then everything above this is just like, it's just more lethality than Palindrome, right? So Pally, it's as disappointing as it was, when it was Void. Honestly, it was one of the most overrated PvE hand cannons back then too. People were farming like Overflow 1 for all on this thing and getting excited. Okay, I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, anyways, Palindrome, not great. Adamantite. Adamantite is, it's pretty alright. Let me go ahead and go to the auto rifle tab on the spreadsheet here. I'm not going to put in the S tier with no hesitation. I think Restoration, giving Restoration to you and your teammates is just too powerful of an effect to really kind of put them in the same tier, but it's pretty decent, right? I think, Reciprocity, Tear, Slice Tear could be some potentially interesting combos to reduce the damage output of some targets. Although I do think the fact that Tear kind of requires you to get a precision kill, right? It is a precision kill, isn't it? Let me just make sure. Yeah, it is a precision kill. So yeah, I do think Tear requiring you to get a precision final blow with like a support auto in like endgame content, it's like the effect is nice, but I don't think it's particularly potent or like consistently proccable. So yeah, I do think Reciprocity is like an okay physic replacement. And, it has like a couple other decent perks, but yeah, I don't, it's just by nature of being a support auto, it's going to be in the A tier, but I don't think it's as good as No Hesitation, right? Sadly, I don't think it's just not the case. It's just not the case. Okay, that's it for Adamantite. Let's go to Division next. Division, I think I put in my notes, this is basically Anonymous Autumn, but a different archetype, right? It's a slightly better archetype, heavy burst, which is a little bit better than lightweight, but you know, subjective feel, I suppose. You know, similarly good origin traits, I suppose. Field tested is more of a long-term thing. Run it over requires allies, and then division also has like pugilist and grave robber instead of demo. So kind of take your pick here. They're both kind of similar, right? They're both fine, right? They're both solid A tiers. I don't think they have the strength that like heal clip and repulsor, brace, destabilizing rounds, insurmountable, heliocentric have, but you know, it's decent. It's fine. It's all right. You know, if you need an arc sidearm, it's an arc sidearm. Okay, Redrix's Estoc. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. Estoc. This is probably one of the best stasis pulse rifles in the game for PvE. But again, it is a headstone pulse, right? And when we have options like volt shot, jolting feedback, you know, I'm going to say this spiel over and over, but you guys get the deal, right? Like, headstone is just not that good compared to these perks. These perks have much more lethality, etc., etc. You know, repulsor brace is a better, you know, survivability perk than like Rhyme Stealer. Because Rhyme Stealer requires you to stack over and over and over to repeatedly get frost armor up to a usable value. So yeah, Redrix's Estoc, it's fine. It's like it's very similar to Stay Frosty. I wrote that in my notes as well. They're essentially the same frame. This one obviously has the enhanced hipfire or whatever that encourages that, but you know, that's pretty much it. Okay. I'm running out of breath. Anamnesis. I think I'm saying that correctly. Anamnesis. This is basically the same bow as Fortunate Star, I believe it's called. Yeah, it's basically the same thing as Fortunate Star. I don't know what Runneth Over will do with this thing. I guess maybe it'll give you 2 in the mag on a bow, which actually doesn't do much because the reload time on a bow is like a very small window compared to the draw time. But you know, it's whatever, I suppose. Dragonfly destabilizing rounds could be potentially interesting, but I think for the most part, you're going to go for repulsor destabilizing on this thing if you're going to use a bow in a serious capacity. Otherwise, if you just want it for ad clear, Dragonfly destabilizing is similar to like Dragonfly Incandescent, maybe a little bit better given the destabilizing buff, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I do think a bow with destabilizing is a bit odd, I guess. Volatile rounds on a very slow fire rate, very slow hit rate, instance count weapon is a bit awkward. Okay, anyways, that's Anamnesis. Let's go to Exalted Truth. Exalted Truth, Trials Hand Cannon. This is basically an Ancient Gospel Mahi's competitor. It doesn't have explosive payload, but it makes up for it by having Repulsor Brace. For those of you that are not aware, destabilizing rounds, that explosion does not trigger one for all. It does not count as weapon damage, so you do need to shoot 3 ads still if you want it. But I think, you know, them all being volatile kind of makes it natural to shoot all these different ads to get all these volatile explosions. So I'm not the biggest hater of One for All on this weapon, but I do still think destabilizing repulsor is going to be the best option. Obviously, a heavy burst hand cannon is significantly better than an adaptive hand cannon in terms of raw minor DPS, but I know people have their reservations against heavy burst hand cannons, especially given the mediocre stats that can be on Mahis if you don't have a good roll with like high reload. So yeah, anyways, these are going to remain in the A tier. I mean, S tier is still going to be like Word of Crota. Talked about this. Or actually, we didn't talk about this because I didn't really mention anything in a YouTube video about making new primary tier list. But yeah, Word of Crota is one of the best primaries in the game. Repulsor, destabilizing. I know you might hate precision hand cannons, but they are the highest minor DPS hand cannon in the game, and Cursed Thrall, which is an insanely broken origin trait. Basically a perk on its own. A good perk as well. Okay, next up we have Peacebond. New Peacebond. I suppose this is not really that relevant because no one can even like get Peacebond right now because IB isn't out, I think. But regardless, why is the vision missing? Okay, whatever. Regardless, this is basically just another headstone sidearm, right? So I just put it kind of in the same tier as the other headstone sidearms. It is a good archetype. Adaptive Burst is one of the highest sidearm minor DPS archetypes, but it's just a headstone sidearm, right? And headstone sidearms, they're just okay, right? When you have stuff like instrument, I'm not going to repeat myself. Okay, moving on. We have Vision of Confluence. Okay, Vision of Confluence, it's very unfortunate, right? It's very unfortunate because the origin trait doesn't really suit a primary that much, and it is a precision frame scout, which is unfortunately, if I remember correctly, it is the worst archetype of scout after the high impact, after the aggressive frame buffs. So a bit unfortunate. It got some nice perks though, right? It has Incandescent Firefly, the first of its kind on a scout rifle. It has like Heal Clip Firefly, you know, has Incandescent Explosive Payload, all decent options. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, I used this thing back in the day, Rewind Rounds, Disruption Break, Anti-Barrier, Scout in like GMs and stuff, and this thing feels nice, but it's a precision, guys. It's a precision. I'm sorry, it's a precision, right? And if we compare it against something like, you know, Trusty with like the Bray Inheritance Incandescent interaction, it's just not as good. It's just not as good, right? Even Time Worn Wayfarer after the aggressive frame buffs, it's, you know, it's going to be a step above. So Vision of Confluence, it's you know, if it was like a rapid, I would give it the time of day maybe, but unfortunately it's a precision. So I put it at the top of A tier next to Hung Jury, which has Shoot to Loot and is also a precision. So a little bit more utility there. Okay, moving on. Vision of Confluence is out of the way. Corrective Measure. So Corrective Measure, the only thing that I want on Corrective Measure, obviously it's going to be S tier, right? It was already S tier, so they updated the perks, it's still going to be S tier, right? Time Loss Magazine is fine, I guess, if you're running like a machine gun ad clear build and like a gem or something, like after you cast your super, you have a double mag, whatever makes sense, right? The only thing I wish is that they put destabilizing rounds in the second column, or they put Firefly in the second column. Destabilizing rounds Firefly would have been a banger. Destabilizing round Firefly, I would have loved that so much. But unfortunately, we got, you know, this, which is not terrible. You know, you got like Firefly killing tally, you got like destabilizing rounds one for all, you got destabilizing rounds, you know, demoralize. That's potentially interesting. So yeah, Corrective Measure, it's still pretty good, but it's I don't know, the machine gun S tier, I might reorder some of these because, you know, commemoration, it's good and all, but, you know, reconstruction nerfs, etc., you know, we'll see what happens. Corrective Measure is still obviously very good after the buffs. But yeah, I'm not going to speak too much about that. I think you guys already know Corrective Measure is going to stay in the S tier. Still a good weapon. Okay, Admetus-D. This is a random, like a world drop, void high impact scout. Not much to say here. It's pretty bad. Where did I put it? It's over here, C tier. Yeah, it has Repulsor Brace, it has Demoralize. It's basically like, it's a scout rifle with modern perks, except it's missing destabilizing, and it's a high impact, so we hate high impacts, but, you know, it's a no destabilizing, right? No splash perk on a modern primary. Legendary primaries without splash perks are a bit rough these days, so that's why it's placed the way that it has. Psychopomp, new arc area denial GL. Not much to say about this one. If they give a jolting feedback, I would have bust in my pants, but they did not. However, it is an area denial in season 26, so it is an S tier weapon, just by nature of being an area denial. It does have Ambitious Assassin, which, you know, I think a lot of, I don't know, I saw some people mentioning like stats for on this thing. I mean, Ambitious Assassin is the obvious first pick here. You're going to get a kill on this thing, so you're guaranteed to get ambitious, and you might even get multiple kills. You get 3 in the mag. And I'm assuming if you can shoot this thing back to back with 2 in the mag, you can shoot, what, like 10 pools? You know, that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. Second column, a bit of a letdown, right? I mean, obviously, it's a better damage option than Velocity Baton. It has Envious Arsenal in one of the columns, and it also has actual damage perks. But besides that, I don't think this is going to be, you know, particularly better than Velocity Baton for, like, ad clear. It's probably going to be more of a damage option, you know, kind of like how people use Lost Signal. You know, it's a damage option. Unfortunately, different area denials don't stack, so if someone's on Lost Signal on your fire team, you can't be on Psychopomp and stack damage and, you know, proc Envious with it. Just so you know. Okay, just so you know. Okay, that's it for Psychopomp. I mean, it's all right, I suppose, right? It'll probably stack Rolling Storm pretty quickly if you're amplified. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Psychopomp. Surprisingly, not very exciting. Okay, snipers. We have Praedyth Revenge. Yo, what the hell, man? I looked at this ideal row. So for fun, every once in a while, I go into the tier list and I make an ideal version of like a sniper or linear or whatever. And I'm like, if Bungie was out of their mind, like, and they wanted to make the perfect weapon, like the ceiling for this weapon type, what would they put on it? And this was literally what Praedyth Revenge gets: 4 times a charm, Envious Arsenal, rewind rounds. But they put kinetic tremors in the first column, and I do think 4 times and rewind rounds kind of are better than Envious Arsenal in most cases. I don't think you want to use Envious Arsenal on this weapon most of the time, because the perks in the second column just don't really make sense to use with Envious Arsenal, right? Precision Instrument requires you to swap. It's to stay on the weapon, right? So you can't really swap off. And then Firefly's an ad clear perk. Frenzy, high impact reserves, like bait and switch. Bait and switch, you're losing that first shot damage, and then your timer's ticking down. If you use it, just shoot and swap off. So it's kind of awkward to use Envious Arsenal, in my opinion. I do think rewind rounds is better. This is definitely more of a spam sniper than a swap sniper, right? And of course, there's that thing that I mentioned with Envious Arsenal being better on like aggressives if you're just shooting one shot to proc it. So yeah, I think Praedyth Revenge, this is like the solid first column, and then you have Bait and Switch and Elemental Honing in the second column, which are also obviously potentially interesting. So yeah, this thing is absolutely stacked. Obviously, like, you know, Supremacy is like still fine and everything, but I do think Praedyth Revenge is pretty crazy. I might actually move Supremacy down a tier, but we'll talk about that later. I'm not gonna get too you know, too specific, too crazy, too harsh on the tier list right now, because I'm gonna be really busy after this. So yeah, Praedyth Revenge, pretty good. Yeah, Praedyth Revenge and Hezen, obviously the two standouts from the Vogra prize. I think everyone's already realized that, but I will just say it. Oh, I just realized, guys, I apologize. We actually have not tiered Mirror Imago. Let me actually go ahead and do that right now so you guys can see my process, because I usually don't show this in videos of how I tier stuff. So let's go ahead and get Mirror Imago into this list, because I'm 80% sure I did not do this yesterday. Although I was in a bit of a fugue state yesterday, so maybe I did. Anyways, Mirror Imago, let's go ahead and insert that image from light.gg. Shout out the boys at light.gg. Okay, so this is a Strand Adaptive Frame SMG. That is not how you spell adaptive. Adaptive Frame SMG. And what does it have? So probably you're going to want Runneth Over on this thing, right? Probably you're going to want Runneth Over. Willing Vessel is fine too. And then what else we got? Second column. Ooh, yeah, second column's not looking too good. I'm not going to lie to you guys. As Hatchling and maybe Swashbuckler. I don't think Sword Logic is particularly good. I think Target Lock is obviously pretty bad. Permeability, yeah, these are... Okay. Hatchling is a Hatchling SMG. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, guys. Strand SMGs are kind of cursed to be bad besides Imminence, because Imminence just has like all these good perks that are like not really related to Strand, but Hatchling being like the only Strand splash perk is not great, right? Not great. Okay, what do we have next on this thing? Okay, like Overflow. Okay, so you're probably gonna go for, in my assumption here, Grave Robber. Maybe you go like Pugilist, right? I don't know how strong Recycled Energy is, by the way. I don't think that's been measured. I'm gonna say Pugilist for now, and then maybe like Subsistence. I don't know. Yeah, it's not particularly good. We're gonna put it down by the other Hatchling SMGs, aka Immortal and stuff like that. Yeah, this seems like a decent place to plunk it down. Hatchling is just really not particularly good on SMGs. So I'm gonna put in the E tier. Let me go ahead and update my changelog so I can show that that's been moved into the E tier. Where would we put that? We put that probably right over here. Yeah. So we go NA, E, Hatchling SMG without anything else particularly noteworthy. Mirror Imago. Oh, okay, we're reconnecting. Okay, so let's move on past Mirror Imago while my spreadsheet continues to load. We have Lotus-Eater, sorry, next. That is the name of it, right? Mirror Imago, yeah. Okay, Lotus-Eater is up next. This is a rocket sidearm. I have a rocket sidearm tier list with all 5 rocket sidearms in this game. Yeah, this thing has repulsor destabilizing, which is, again, pretty nice because rocket sidearms are famously very good at just one-shotting red bars, so you'll proc destabilizing pretty easily. I do recommend combining this with another weapon that can trigger the volatile explosions a lot better than a rocket sidearm can, because rocket sidearms are a relatively low fire rate. Maybe, you know, Lotus-Eater plus, you know, like a lost signal or something like that. But regardless, repulsor destabilizing, pretty good. First shoot to the rocket sidearm, although I do think it's kind of a waste on a rocket sidearm because, you know, ammo efficiency reasons. But yeah, pretty good. This is not TBA anymore, so let me go ahead and fix that. This is now, I think Stunning Recovery is better than Vanguard's Vindication. So yeah, I don't think I've changed my perk preferences on this thing. Yeah, repulsor, reconstruction, shoots loot. Yeah, pretty decent stuff here. Same tier as Aberrant, you know, same reasons. Not much else to say there. We are almost at the end here, ladies and gentlemen. We have Psychopomp, that's a repeat. We have Abyssal Edge, that's a repeat. And finally, we have Fatebringer. Fatebringer is basically the same thing as Midnight Coup now. So I just put it next to Midnight Coup. Because it's like, it's basically Midnight Coup, except Firefly got moved from the right column to the left column. And Kinetic Tremors got moved from the left column to the right column. And the rest is pretty much the same. It's just Midnight Coup has shoot to loot, right? So, yeah, not much else to say there. It's an A tier gun. It's nowhere near as good as something like Word of Crota, just like putting that out there. I know people like Fatebringer a lot more, but just, you know, this is insane. This is like precision, repulsor, destabilizing, curse. Like you could not make a better hand cannon, I think, right now, personally. Maybe, I mean, maybe for player preferences, if you made this adaptive instead, it would be a little bit better. But just math-wise, like you cannot make a better primary than Word of Crota in the hand cannon type right now. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm not going to go over exotics right now. I don't think Lodestar is like something people are going to take into the day one or anything, so I don't think it's particularly important to mention that right now. If you're curious about the other changes that have been made to the spreadsheet, you can go to the changelog. I moved some stuff like Withering Gaze Snipers. I moved them down a little bit. I think I overrated them a bit. There's a couple other things like Inquisitor is getting like a refresh of its perk pool, I think. Yeah, a couple other things. Again, I mentioned I moved like Apex Predator down, Crux got moved down, etc., etc., etc. But you can take a look at these things on your own time. I'm not going to, you know, pad out this video's runtime anymore. I'm going to do some damage testing now, right? I hope you guys enjoyed this. The summary is, okay, since day one is a bit of a time crunch, right? It's a bit time sensitive. What do you need to get right now? The answer is I don't think Hezen's going to be meta, like super meta for day one. Okay, it's a rocket. Rockets have, for the last little while, not been super meta on day one, especially for a dungeon, right? Where having a galley user is a lot of damage loss. And I do think some of the linear options that I'm going to test will be more on the ease of use side of things while not losing too much damage because of Particle, especially because Tractor and Tether are not always the best ideas on a day 1 dungeon because you're losing, you know, damage if you have a Tether or a Tractor compared to just a Weaken, and then that's going to make Particle Deconstruction look better, or Reconstruction look better, I should say, because Particle Reconstruction, at least from what I've heard, only works with Div and Weakens, only stacks with them, does not work with Tractor, etc. So that's going to make Linears and Co look a little bit better. Okay, that's all I have to say for now. I will see you guys. I love all of you, and thank you for your patience. This video was supposed to come out yesterday, like I said, but I hope this summarizes what the good weapons are. Farm for your Hezens as usual. You know, Praedyth might be decent, right, for like a backup DPS option for day 1, maybe. But I don't think anything has come out this season. Any legendary weapons have come out this season that are absolutely essential grabs for day 1. Okay, I mean, I've talked about them. Maybe I've forgotten one, but again, like I don't think any of them are like essential. Most of the stuff we got from last season, like VS Velocity Baton, etc., is pretty good and is probably still the best option to bring in terms of legendary options. We're going to be talking about damage in the next video. I will see you then. Goodbye.